Thank you. The next item of business is consideration of business motion 8627 in the name of Joe Fitzpatrick on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau, setting out a revision to the business programme for today. Any member who wishes to speak against the motion should press the request to speak button now. And I call on Joe Fitzpatrick to move motion number 8627.
Moved.
No member has asked to speak against the motion, therefore I now put the question to the Chamber. The question is that motion number 8627 in the name of Joe Fitzpatrick be agreed to. Are we all agreed? The motion is therefore agreed to. The next item of business is consideration of business motion 8621 in the name of Joe Fitzpatrick on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau, setting out a timetable for the Stage 3 consideration of the Landfill Tax Scotland Bill. Any member who wishes to speak against the motion should press the request to speak button now. And I call on Joe Fitzpatrick to move motion number 8621.
Moved.
No members asked to speak against the motion, therefore I now put the question to the Chamber. The question is that motion number 8621 in the name of Joe Fitzpatrick be agreed to. Are we all agreed? The motion is therefore agreed to. We now move to topical questions. Question number 1, Sandra White.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what discussions it has had with Police Scotland regarding housebreakers during the festive period.
Cabinet Secretary Ken McCaskill.
The Scottish Government welcomes this positive and proactive approach by Police Scotland to target what is a most upsetting crime, especially at this time of year. This targeted approach to housebreaking is set against a backdrop of an overall 39-year low in crime across Scotland, and this demonstrates that policing in Scotland is alert to both the real issues and the concerns facing our communities. What is more, the ability to quickly provide additional dedicated resources to target this issue in local communities across Scotland stands as a testament to the responsiveness and agility of a single police service. The Scottish Government welcomes the joint approach with the Crown Office for anyone accused of the offence to face trial and indictment, and hope that this, matched with the targeted action, is a strong deterrent to those engaged in such activity.
Sandra White.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for his reply, and I understand that the crackdown is taking place in areas across Scotland where there has been an increase in housebreakings. My own constituency in Glasgow is not included, and I wonder if this could perhaps be reviewed.
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, the housebreaking initiative, Operation RAC, has been implemented in those areas which have shown an increase in housebreakings to both homes and sheds or garages. Implementation resulted from a review of crime trends and a commitment to communities and the priorities which matter most to them. Operational matters like this, as the member will know, are a matter for the Chief Constable, but I have every faith that decisions taken are in the best interest of the safety and security of local communities. On launching the initiative, Assistant Chief Constable Wayne Mawson stated, and I quote, "We recently launched our local policing campaign, which provides us with the opportunity to speak with individual communities and identify the issues or concerns specifically affecting their area. As a result, housebreaking has been highlighted as a priority for a number of our divisions, and officers in those areas will be taking targeted action to detect anyone involved and deter further offences." Local communities and indeed the member may care to raise this with police representatives. I have no doubt good work, whether in regard to housebreaking or other aspects of criminality that affect our area, are ongoing, but I can give an assurance that the whole intention of Operation RAC is to target this particular crime, but obviously to take account of the needs and requirements of individual communities, and I can only suggest that she should perhaps speak to the Divisional Commander.
Ms White.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I appreciate the reply from the Cab Sec. I have received correspondence from some constituents in my constituency in Glasgow, Kelvin, which you'll be aware has a large proportion of students there who tend to go away over Christmas and New Year. But I certainly will take his advice, and I'll write back to those constituents and the community councils and speak to the Chief Constable and the local community police in the Kelvin constituency. Thank you.
I'm not sure there was a question there, but I don't know if you want a further response, Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I think just to say that much of this is boiled down to police statistics and indeed Crown statistics. There are areas of Scotland that have been hotspots that were addressed previously and earlier in the year, in particular Edinburgh and Kirkcaldy. It may be that there are other crimes that are more affecting the particular area, but I do think that the member's willingness to consult with police will result in what we do seek to get from Police Scotland, which is local policing, albeit with the ability to access national resources.
Graham Pearson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Sandra White makes accurate points. Concerns are also raised about the capacity within Forensic Science Fingerprints Bureau to provide adequate levels of support in the examination of scenes of housebreakings across Scotland, resulting in substantial backlogs in work and court preparation. Can the Cabinet Secretary indicate that he will have a look at this situation and ensure that he's satisfied that correct support is provided for housebreaking examinations?
Cabinet Secretary.
Absolutely, I'm happy to do so. When I was recently at the Forensic Science Laboratory in Dundee, I did see the new and specialised equipment that I think allows scenes of crimes to be much better than ever before. Sometimes they are a victim of their own success, and that greater information can now be obtained than ever before. Recent discussions with Tom Nelson, the head of Forensic Science at Scottish Police Authority, haven't raised any concerns with me, but I'm happy to go back and seek the reassurance that doubtless the member wants. I do think, though, that forensic science in Scotland is in a good place. They do face pressures because of the nature and extent and the advancements in forensic science, but the service has served us well, and indeed perhaps the single biggest benefit we could give them would be to stop some of the routine corroborative matters that are necessary because of the routine requirement for law of corroboration that would free up resources to perhaps concentrate on aspects such as raised by Graham Pearson.
Question number 2, Alison McInnes.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what its position is on the Judicial-Complaints-Reviewers 2012-13 annual report.
Cabinet Secretary.
In September this year, I invited the Judicial Complaints Reviewer to prepare and publish her annual report for 2012-13. She published her annual report yesterday. The Judicial Complaints Reviewer is an independent office holder, and it would not be appropriate for me to comment on the content of her annual report. I am grateful to her for the work she has undertaken.
Alison McInnes.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for his response. The Cabinet Secretary previously claimed that the Judicial Complaints Reviewer will satisfy the public that there is an element of independent scrutiny and ensure that the public's legitimate interest is protected. And yet Moy Ali says that she has difficulty in providing the public with the necessary reassurance that the Cabinet Secretary envisaged. She adds that she described her own post as window dressing, and claimed that fundamentally the problem is the legislation. It's judges judging judges' conduct. Can I ask how the Cabinet Secretary intends to address the serious concerns that the Judicial Complaints Reviewer has raised? And will he do so before her term ends on the 31st of August 2014?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, I have to say I'm perfectly happy both with the report I've received but also with the current structure. This follows from the Judiciary Act of 2008. And although Alison McInnes wasn't a member of the committee, she did have a former parliamentary colleague who was. And I can simply quote from Margaret Smith, then MSP and the Liberal Democrat Justice spokesman. She talked that the bill proposes the creation of a Judicial Complaints Reviewer. And she goes on to say, as we've heard, there's been some disagreement about that. Bill Aitken said that they were happy to leave conduct issues to the Lord President. And she goes on to say, I would not be happy if some elaborate bureaucratic procedure involving a Judicial Complaints Reviewer was set up. However, there is merit in an external view being taken on how the judiciary handles complaints about itself, and I'm sure the public at large agree. So I have to say it may be that there's been a change in the Liberal Democrat position, but I have to say as an administration we stand by the fact that we do have an independent Judicial Complaints Reviewer, but we also have the Act of 2008 that does enshrine an independent judiciary with the Lord President at the helm. This government is satisfied with both those office bearers.
Alison McInnes.
I think the Liberal Democrats listen and learn. There is obviously some difference between some elaborate structure and something that actually works, and we need to actually listen to what Moy Ali is saying. She's made it clear that the resource allocation is insufficient to cope with the demands on the service. The annual budget is just £2,000 a year. She has no staff, no administrative support. She says it's clear that it's a real challenge fitting the work in. And she highlights in her annual report that it needs to be adequately resourced if complainants are to receive a prompt and thorough review of their cases, and backlogs should not be an inevitability. Does the Cabinet Secretary therefore believe that it is appropriate to look again at the resources that are in place to support the delivery of this service?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, we have sought to do so. Premises within the Scottish Legal Complaints Commission's offices were secured for the Judicial Complaints Reviewer to allow her access to all workplace essentials and some administrative staff support. However, these arrangements did not work out as expected, and the Judicial Complaints Reviewer elected herself to work from home. So this administration has always been willing to put additional and indeed the appropriate resources at the behest of the Judicial Complaints Reviewer. But I think we should remember that the number of complaints that she deals with are remarkably few, that it does appear that we have the correct structures established in an Act that was supported by this Parliament in 2008, and on that basis we are satisfied with the current structures.
Thank you. That ends topical questions. The next item of business is a statement by Alex Neil.